Hello Bond fans and welcome to Austria. Within this beautiful alpine scenery, James Bond creator Ian Fleming dreamt up some of the characters he would later use in the novels. He lived here on the other side of the mountain in Kitzbühel in the 1920s, and I will be going in the footsteps of Fleming himself. So come along and enjoy some of this beautiful scenery together with me.
Nestled in the heart of the Austrian Alps, Kitzbühel is a town that seems to have been painted by romance itself. In winter, its snow-draped rooftops glisten like sugar-frosted dreams, while summer reveals emerald meadows and cobbled streets that echo with laughter and music. But beyond its postcard beauty lies a deeper allure, one that captivated the young Ian Fleming in the 1920s. Here, amid the soft clink of champagne glasses, Fleming found more than alpine charm. He found inspiration, intrigue, and love. The town's elegant facades and mysterious mountain shadows offered the perfect backdrop for a man who would one day invent the world's most famous spy. Kitzbühel was not just a retreat, it was a revelation. After establishing a reputation as the family's black sheep through mediocre academic success at Eton and a brief stint at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, Ian Fleming's mother Evelyn sought a course correction. She needed to set her 18-year-old son on the right path. Hoping to improve his prospects and to refine his language skills before the Foreign Office examinations, she sent him to Kitzbühel in the summer of 1926, although some sources claim it was in 1929. Here it is important to note that much of what is written comes from recollections and biographies, some of which rely on interviews or small archival fragments, or from local law rather than formal school or immigration records. That naturally introduces room for error. What can be established in fact, though, is that the young Fleming was suffering from the success of his older brother Peter, who seemed to succeed at everything, while he himself lacked stability and direction. In this respect, his time in the Tyrolean mountains was his last chance to get his life back on track.
Here I'm actually standing overlooking the Hahnenkamm ski slope, which is one of the world's most dangerous ski slopes. Ian Fleming was expert skier enough to master it, but just to give you an example of how great this is, maybe you've seen it on television at one point, but this here is the finish where they come down and they reach speeds up to 140 kilometers per hour when they finish their race. And back in the day when Fleming was here, skiing was actually done on the Kitzbühel Horn. Not so much here at the Hahnenkamm, because there were no lifts and this area had not been developed for skiing. Fleming was not just a good skier, he also did a lot of climbing here. And if you're a really good climber, just follow me, you can take on that. That is the Wild Emperor, the Wilde Kaiser. And I actually did that as a child. I went right down through there in the middle with my parents when I was young. I wouldn't do it today. It's enough of a hassle to get up here. Yeah, you don't get any younger, but Fleming certainly did a lot of skiing and climbing here, and this alpine scenery is just, you have to take it in. And you have to appreciate nature and the people and the culture. It opens your eyes to a lot of things. And Fleming described in later years, that Kitzbühel was really that time for him that instilled a lot in him that he later became.
It was here, at the then Villa Tennerhof, where Fleming came under the guidance of Ernest Forbes Dennis and his wife, the acclaimed American novelist Phyllis Bottom. Between 1924 and 1929, the pair ran Tennerhof as an Alfred Adler school, which embraced the educational principles of Austrian psychotherapist Alfred Adler. Students were urged to work diligently and pursue a wide range of intellectual curiosities. Adler was the founder of individual psychology, a school of thought that emphasized the importance of social connectedness, community feeling, and the drive for significance in human life. Originally a close collaborator of Sigmund Freud, Adler broke away from the psychoanalytic movement in 1911 to establish his own psychological school, which rejected Freud's emphasis on sexuality as the primary motivator of behavior. Adler believed that feelings of inferiority and the striving for superiority shaped personality development. His focus on encouragement, social interest, and the holistic view of the person had a lasting impact on psychotherapy, education, and counseling. One of the notable institutions connected to his legacy was the school in Kitzbühel, where progressive educational methods inspired by his ideas were practiced. It implemented Adlerian principles in teaching, with an emphasis on cooperation, equality, and mutual respect between teachers and students. The school principal, Ernest Forbes Dennis, was no ordinary man. His biography reads almost like straight out of a spy novel. Born a Scottish nobleman, he was working as a diplomat, first in Marseille and then in Vienna's UK embassy as passport control officer, a cover for his real role as MI6 head of station, with responsibility for Austria, Hungary, and Yugoslavia. His wife, Phyllis Bottom, had studied individual psychology under Alfred Adler while in Vienna. Today, Tennerhof is a 5-star hotel, situated on a gentle hillside above Kitzbühel, nestled in a tranquil garden. The view from the hotel's suites and terrace over the renowned resort, as well as the panoramic views of the mountains and the world-famous Streif ski run, are breathtakingly beautiful. It is even possible to soak in the spirit of Ian Fleming in the James Bond room, which was once Fleming's actual room in 1926 and 27. The 31 square meter double room, available for €295 per night, comes with exquisite wood paneling, 2 bathrooms, a stunning view of Kitzbühel, as well as all of Fleming's novels, and a 007 DVD box set. For Bond fans, there is no better place to stay than here. In this family-like environment of the elite private school the hotel once was, Fleming was able to thrive. His mother's plan had not only succeeded, Fleming had also taken much inspiration for the James Bond novels he would later write.
So, there you have it. It's definitely one of the coziest, most charming hotels here in Kitzbühel, and you can reach everything within a couple of minutes. And if you're ever here in Kitzbühel on location, be sure to book Hotel Tennerhof and the James Bond room. It's quite an experience, I can tell you. Now, with the former owner of this house 100 years ago being a former spy, I asked the question if Kitzbühel ever was a nest of spies, like the First World War, Second World War, and the time in between when Fleming was here. The official sources say no, it was never actually a nest of spies, but with the density of 5-star hotels and luxury resorts, that this town has always had. You can be sure there have been a few diplomats, probably a few spies, exchanging secrets, having meetings right here in the ski resort.
Although Kitzbühel was far from a nexus of espionage, it played host to one remarkable figure whose life intersected with Fleming's, and who may well have served as a prototype for James Bond himself, Conrad O'Brien French. He was the sort of man who seemed conjured from the pages of a spy thriller, except he lived the adventure before it was ever written. Born in London in 1893, O'Brien French held the aristocratic title of Second Marquis de Castle-Thomond, a distinction that granted him entry into Europe's elite circles. He leveraged this privilege with striking versatility, serving as a British intelligence officer, accomplished mountaineer, gifted artist, and fluent linguist. During the 1930s, he operated in Kitzbühel under the guise of a travel agency named Tyrol Tours. Known within intelligence circles as Agent Z3, he was part of the clandestine Z organization, an unofficial and highly secretive arm of MI6. This covert network was the brainchild of Claude Danzy, who would later ascend to the role of Assistant Chief of MI6. Danzy envisioned the Z organization as a nimble and independent alternative to the main intelligence apparatus, which he viewed as antiquated, compromised, and mired in bureaucracy. At the time, MI6 was beset by chronic underfunding, obsolete operational methods, and increasingly transparent diplomatic covers, most notoriously the passport control officer designation, which had become little more than a poorly kept secret. Intriguingly, this was the very role held in Vienna by Fleming's mentor at the Tennerhof, adding yet another thread to the tapestry of real-life intrigue that would later inspire fiction. In March 1938, as German troops prepared to invade Austria, O'Brien French sent a coded message to London. "My aunt has arrived," a signal that the Nazis were coming. After blowing his cover, he fled in a British sports car, evaded Gestapo agents through the narrow streets of Kitzbühel, and escaped into the Alps on foot, hiding banknotes in his shoes. This earned him an entry in Adolf Hitler's Black Book, a hit list of undesirables wanted by the Nazis, dead or alive. Fleming was reportedly fascinated by O'Brien French's aristocratic flair, daring escapades, and taste for luxury, traits that would later define James Bond. Ever drawn to the thrill of danger, Ian Fleming's early visits to Kitzbühel, first in the summer of 1926, and then again in the winter of 1927 and 28, were marked by a series of dramatic episodes befitting the future creator of James Bond. On one occasion, his car was struck by a train. On another, he was swept up in an avalanche while skiing a closed slope. His time in the Tyrolean town was also punctuated by bouts of indulgence, with more than one mention of spirited binges. Yet, amidst the chaos, Fleming found moments of serenity. He delighted in early morning swims in the Schwarzsee, its name translating to Black Lake, followed by invigorating hikes up the Kitzbühler Horn, whose summit offers panoramic views of the surrounding alpine majesty. Upon descending, he would order coffee and scrambled eggs, which he famously declared to be the only two things in the whole world that will never let you down. Romantic entanglements were, of course, also part of the tapestry. One such liaison was with Liesl Jodl, a waitress at Café Praxmeier, where the two first met. The cafe, which in its final incarnation had become a beloved cabaret theatre, closed its doors permanently in 2023. During my visit in 2025, restoration work was underway on its facade, a quiet echo of its storied past. Fleming and Jodel's brief affair unfolded in the vibrant social scene of the Dance Café Reich, just a stone's throw away where they first crossed paths. The venue stood on the very site now occupied by a construction crane, but in its heyday, it was a glamorous haunt founded by Franz Reich, the visionary who introduced alpine skiing to Kitzbühel in the late 19th century. The Tanzcafé embodied his ambition to transform the town into a nexus of sport and leisure. With live music, dancing, and an air of sophistication, it captured the spirit of the roaring 20s and helped shape Kitzbühel's identity as a luxury destination. The original structure, designed by architect Louis Welzenbacher, was rebuilt in 1928. Today, it is the 4-star Hotel zur Tenne, slated to reopen in 2027 following an extensive redesign. Another legacy of the Reich family endures in the form of the 4-star Hotel Reich, a complex that expanded in tandem with the town's tourism boom. Its bar remains a lively day-to-night venue, serving coffee and lunch by day and cocktails and music by night, preserving the ambience of the original dance cafe where Fleming and Jodl once swayed to the rhythm of the times. Their relationship, though fleeting in romance, matured into a lifelong friendship. When Nazi Germany annexed Austria on 12 March 1938, Fleming intervened to help Jodl, who was of Jewish ancestry, escape the growing peril. He arranged for her safe passage to England, a gesture born of deep personal loyalty and practical resolve. In 1954, Fleming inscribed a first edition of Casino Royale to Liesl with the words, "Despite whose loving care this novel was written." That copy is now valued at over £100,000, and Liesl is widely believed to have inspired the character Liesl Baum in the short story Risiko. In his final will, Fleming bequeathed £500 each to 3 individuals from his Kitzbühel days. Among them, Liesl, now bearing the surname Popper, suggesting she had married in England after her escape. After a year in Kitzbühel, Fleming continued his studies at Munich University to strengthen his German, and later at Geneva University to refine his French. He later looked back on his Kitzbühel days with fondness, recalling them to a friend as that golden time when the sun always shone. Phyllis Bottom, in particular, had left a lasting impression on Fleming by nurturing his imagination and encouraging him to explore fiction writing. In 1960, Fleming wrote to Bottom, "My life with you both is one of my most cherished memories, and heaven knows where I should be today without Ernan." In his 10th Bond novel, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Fleming incorporates Kitzbühel into the plot one last time. His hero marries the beautiful Contessa Teresa di Vicenza, and Bond tells her father, "I thought we might spend the honeymoon in Kitzbühel. I love that place." That last sentence, however simple it might appear on the page, came straight from Fleming's heart and has a different weight with the history we have just explored. For any fan of James Bond, a journey to Kitzbühel ought to be considered essential. A pilgrimage of sorts, whether in the sun-drenched days of summer or the snow-laced splendor of winter. The town and its surrounding alpine landscape offer a dazzling array of experiences, from tranquil scenic walks to exhilarating hikes that lead to natural marvels such as the Wildsee, one of the region's most breathtaking mountain lakes. And, of course, there is skiing, après-ski revelry, and the kind of high-spirited indulgence that would make 007 feel right at home. Beyond its pristine slopes and panoramic trails, Kitzbühel boasts a refined hospitality scene. World-class hotels, exquisite dining, and even its own casino, where one can channel their inner bond with a martini in hand. Guests staying in local accommodations enjoy complimentary access to the region's public transport system, remarkably clean, efficient, and reliably punctual, making it effortless to explore without concern for cost or logistics.
A little tiny bit of advice. Since Fleming learned German here, why shouldn't you? What I realized being here for a couple of days is that people will greet you when you pass them on the street. So one of the things you have to learn is Servus. Servus means hello. That's typical Austrian. You can also use it in Bavaria. So it's very handy. And it's a friendlier place than Germany, for example, because in Germany we wouldn't greet you on the street if we saw you. But I heard people speaking English but greeting me with Servus in Austrian, Bavarian, German. So another thing you could say when you go somewhere to a shop, you could say Grüß dich. That means greeting you. And I write it down here, so there's a learning curve. Just if you need it, if you find yourself here, it's going to help you a lot, because when you travel, and Bond has realized that, and Fleming has realized that even before, it's part of your own culture to appreciate the culture of the country you're traveling to. So, and it's very, very polite to at least know please and thank you, good day and goodbye in the language of the country you're going to. That's what I've always done. And goes a long way.
Having faced my own childhood challenges, echoes perhaps of Fleming's own, I can attest to the restorative power of this place. Kitzbühel has a way of grounding you, of rekindling vitality and perspective. It's a sanctuary where nature and history converge, offering respite from the frenetic pace of modern life. Here, one can nourish both body and spirit and glean quiet wisdom from the locals, whose warmth and zest for life are as enduring as the mountains that surround them. After all, if it worked for Fleming, why shouldn't it work for us?